Welcome to Mindful Drawing. I'm Robert, and I'll be your guide on this meditative practice that enters the space of mindfulness through the act of drawing. We'll jump into the exercise quick this week, a meditation on convergence, of bringing things together, looking at that space between them. They never quite make it all the way there. There's always a little gap between surfaces, between things, between atoms. That shape of convergence, the wedge, pressing towards a point only mathematically possible, and use the drawing as a space to see what comes from that, to see what we can explore between those gaps, to bring convergence of our imagination with the page, with the pen, with the pencil, with the expression of an idea on the paper, and bring mindfulness and presence to that space. Use our breath to really enter it, to ride those waves of expansion and contraction, and meditate for a few moments of active drawing. See if we can't find a little creativity and fun. I'm just going to use some Bristol paper and a pen today, but anything should work. We'll just be drawing some fine lines, some close, some far, pressing towards and away from each other. So go ahead and gather supplies, establish your space, and let's draw together. Move our way into a little warm-up for the exercise. Come back to our hands, but maybe a quick just check in with the fingers, some pulsing, some opening, wrapping them around each other, flexing them back and forth. Just make sure they're all there and that all the nerves are activated. This week's meditation or exercise will be around an idea of convergence, which comes with its spectrum. We'll look at it through a series of simple lines that enter and exit through the frame to converge around a space and see what that makes for us. I'll use a pen, but pencil will be fine. Wouldn't matter too much for the exercise. What we'll look at in the longer format, so on a scratch paper or something, just a little kind of paperclip elbow shape that enters into the frame and then rebounds out again, making a converging angle towards some point in there. And we'll play and experiment with several of these converging around that empty center. Some of the things that you may experiment with, explore during the exercise, could be the straightness or bumpiness of these lines. You can come in very clean and precise, turn a smooth corner, and return very straight. Or we could have a little bit of wobble and play, converging and diverging on the neighbors. That'll be up to you and how you want to play in the exercise or in the warm-up, testing a few things out, some things simple and clean, others with a little bit of movement to them. I think I'll keep mine pretty straight for most of the exercise. And some of these make nice little shapes. And that'll be the structuring element of what we do, getting a sense of that. And I think after we'll come in and begin to enhance, ride along, create edges to these, give them a little bit of thickness or boundary, reinforcing that motion in and out of the page, and maybe a little shading or hatching to start to fill some areas to explore what comes from that space of convergence. A lot of probably very slow, kind of repetitive, deliberate work to keep the hand engaged, but anytime if you want to go off and explore and just draw some curves or lines, feel free. The exercise just to set up or thinking and creating a visual space for inhabiting. So in that larger page or fresh page, size doesn't matter so much. Again, rechecking in, taking some time to feel the space we're working in. Just letting the hands kind of know the boundaries. If you're right-handed, making a move around the perimeter. Similar if you're left-handed, just knowing the areas that you reach to and if it's comfortable to engage with your paper from the orientation that you're occupying. And bringing for a moment from the warm-up to mind the density that you might be interested in on the page. Things will develop as we draw each new segment, but a guiding place, wide angles or narrow angles of convergence. Bring into the mind a rough place for that center, the place where the wedges come together. Could be centered or off to the side. They get a little out of center for myself, just for fun. And take a couple of grounding breaths, maybe with the eyes closed, to let those 2 points of convergence come into shape in the mind. The wedge and the space between wedges. And after a couple of breaths to feel centered, not too deep, not shallow, filling out some space and letting the shoulders relax, letting the back and hips sit supported. We can find our first engagement starting out towards the perimeter of the paper, moving in towards that center, turning just before arriving, and heading back out again on its new path. A light bend pointing towards some place where things come together. And we'll work around like a clock, moving to the next space, bringing the journey in from the outer edge, noticing the speed you're working at that feels comfortable. The difference in how you see maybe your hand based on orientation will change. Just a noticing of a few things present in the drawing action. After a couple of these, to start us off, and you have the page marked, we'll begin to use them to guide the breath, the hand, having a sense for speed and motion. We can take the next entrance and exit on a strong breath focus, breathing in at the starting location. And when you're ready, exhaling along the path. It may not make it the whole way, that's okay. Breathe normal when the body asks for it. But the start and exhalation of the movement, aligning our observation, our feeling of speed and action here in the space of the paper. As we're working around, maybe approaching and closing on the shape. Once you do, keep guiding the breaths. We're just going to do a small offset to previous, convergences. So in case you're approaching that, I'll do one to begin, but breathing in to establish and exhaling to start the journey, providing a small boundary, like a bit of a wall, an edge, a curb between converging wedges. As we do several cycles of this breath, you can continue completing the convergence towards that loose center, or completing more rounds, offsetting those lines wherever you are in the drawing. But breathing in to establish, and exhaling as the pen or pencil mark along the path. And as I'm off center a little, these longer paths take a couple breath cycles, an observation guided initially by my mindful and present attention to starting, beginning a journey, riding the breath's wave outwards, and then letting the other cycles come. Continue to work clockwise, or play and make a change, breathing in at the start. And loosely exhaling as you begin the path. Begin to slow that down a bit as we work in the offsets, a place of a little more precision perhaps. Or you can give yourself some room if the precision becomes too tight. A chance for multiple cycles of the breath along that retracing of the path. But keeping the attention on where you begin and how you move with that exhalation. Exploring the observation to perhaps find new rhythms, guidance within the shape, the inward motion towards the center of convergence, bringing a different sensation. Then the outward or the return. One may be a little easier in certain orientations than the other. One may feel a little smoother or faster than the other. Using those waves of the breath as the opening of space to observe how you're engaging with the paper. Taking a break or a rest when you need to recalibrate and align, when the breath reaches the transition, and continuing on when the body and the mind are ready. You have a few more shapes here in my drawing to work the way around, but depending on how many divisions you have and the size of your paper, you may have completed more than one round. And at this point, we can begin to explore some other options for the field, the general shapes and compositions established, that emptiness converged on by these wedges moving their way into a space they can never fit. Seeing what comes to mind as your arm, hand move, and you begin to meditate internally a little on that convergence of paths, convergence of time or ideas. To emphasize the thing reaching towards, or the space reached towards, this emptiness here, or the space around. What I see and think may be interesting is to occupy the territories bringing the action of convergence. These wedges, now large voids, reaching in towards the center, delineated by their double edges, putting pressure on the emptiness of the page or the paper as territories, platforms, something gathering around that could have little things inside of them. So just some playful shapes, perhaps. Little islands radiating out from that convergent point. They could be wiggly shapes, something moving around. They could be more mechanical, like the original shapes, or a little combination of both. You can live in the page or off the page. And then you go explore some of those in each one, using that breath again to open up and be within each territory. Whether you work in series one to the next around the space, or individually in each one, take some time and develop it. We can use that cycling of the breath to begin an action. The body take it from there as we complete a movement around, work into the shapes of the curve to create separation, definition of these forms. Just a little offset of the line to guide the eye, to bring our focus to the hand as moving along the same path brings novel experience. The first time can be quite playful, quite open to motion. The return, more attentive, moving more gradually with care. The convergence between two edges, never quite meeting. The closer you bring them, the more tension may build in the hand, and more tension in the mind as it's working to keep things close, working to resist the wobbles. Breathe into that tension. Find smoothness in it. Observe when there's resistance and breathe. As we work into each space a moment of its own, these internal bodies change the configuration emptiness, putting pressure on the sides, putting pressure towards the center, creating new moments along the convergence, divergence spectrum. We don't have to guide it, but we may begin to see it, and perhaps that can play a role in the drawing. These large open spaces, an opportunity to bring figure, ground, separation to each one, through the contours, perhaps, through lines and hatches. My mind imagines them as little decks extending out over space, something like wood planks or tiles filling that surface between the walls. A simple series of parallel lines that start regular and perhaps find a way to adapt to the changing, compressing and opening spaces between edges. This can be anything. As we take a few minutes to draw, completing regions, adding tone, density, shading, using the space opened up as a place of exploration, and seeing what we find as we draw in our space. No need for new things in the remaining minutes of the exercise. Keep drawing along whatever pulls your interest to it, whatever guides you into that space of connection between the instrument, the page, the medium, and the technique and action that you brought to it, converging together in this moment of expression, filling out some space on a page, exploring adjacent territories, bringing them together towards one moment or place. Everything a little bit of a start to something possible. And noticing where you are in your interaction with that page. We start with that guidance and centering on the breath. But as we draw detailed things, get into a space of imagination, a little flow, we may drift from our attention on the breath. Make sure you are breathing, not holding it tight until the body panics and responds, but letting it have a supple rhythm, supported by your mindful check-in from time to time, an awareness not only in that connection to expression, but the expression happening within a space, time, sensations, things around us. Start listening to that space. Maybe it's the echo or reverberations of your own breathing. Both close to your head, near to the ears, and bouncing off the walls, things nearby. Listen to the mechanical things that are around us, perhaps a fan or a clock. Other things that occupy our space, that drift into noise, hide in the background from time to time. Maybe there's birds chirping outside the window. Or the wind rattling the frames. Or just the sounds as the day warms up and the things around expand, flex, move a little bit, press and converge on the territory of things around them, creak, and activate for another cycle. The sun, the change in temperature. You begin to notice the temperatures around you on your skin. Any subtle breezes, difference from left to right, front to back. All of these things bringing us into presence here with the page and with our space of engagement, of acting. As we approach the final moments of the exercise, a few deep breaths as you prepare to put down the pen or pencil or decide to continue working, whatever serves you today, wherever you might be in your explorations. Taking in that air around you, perhaps noticing smells, noticing the air over the nostrils, all the senses reawakened, re-engaged to your present moment. And as you take a final breath or two and roll things out just to make sure it's all still clicking well, moving freely, sometimes that offhand that doesn't do very much gets a little tense, or maybe we have some tightness in the muscles from drawing slow and close, and just let them rebalance by bringing both hands together, working somewhat symmetrically, and then wiggling free. As we return to our senses, to their awareness of our present, of our space around us, their grounding of us in this reality, maybe feeding some of our imagination, enhancing that space we're finding on the page, getting into a meditative flow in the drawing can help bring out new ideas from the imagination. Those ideas meet the world around us, and that presence of our senses, noticing, feeling, sensation, being, are all part of what can drive a novel interaction, a little creativity and expression on a piece of paper with a pen that can lead us into new little worlds there. Whatever you found in your little world emerging there, I hope it is interesting and inspires you to keep working a little bit further or attempt the exercise in other contexts. Any of these simple beginnings, following the breath, moving the pen or pencil, can be done in a meeting, at your desk, on the subway, or just enjoying a little time with a piece of paper. If you like the exercise, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know below in the comments what you found in following your meditation of convergence, and share with your friends. Subscribe if you want to see more episodes, usually every Wednesday morning here on YouTube and wherever the exercise takes you for the rest of your day or evening. I hope it's good. Draw well. Thank you.